The signal in the dark. The alien colony of Valor Prime was dying. Above the green planet, fire streaked across the night sky as raider ships circled like wolves around a wounded prey. Their plasma cannons burned through defense platforms one after another. The colony's shield domes flickered weakly, then collapsed under the constant bombardment. On the surface, alien families huddled in underground shelters. The ground shook with each explosion. Children cried, elders prayed, and soldiers clutched their weapons, though they knew it was useless. The raiders were too many. High in the colony's command tower, Governor Terrell stood over the last working console. His 4 arms trembled as he pressed the controls, sending a final signal into the void. It was an old code, ancient, and rarely used anymore, a universal distress beacon. "Who will hear us?" one of his aides whispered. "No one comes this far. No one dares." Terrell closed his eyes. "We must try. Even a ghost is better than silence." The signal burst outward, cutting through the stars. A desperate cry. A call for help. Then, nothing. The raiders laughed as their ships tightened formation. Their leader, a scared brute named Varkish, opened a comm channel for the colonists to hear. "Your call is wasted," Varkish sneered. His voice was rough, dripping with mockery. "No empire cares for you. No fleet will come. You are alone." Inside the command tower, silence filled the air. Soldiers bowed their heads. Even Terrell felt his hope crumbling. But far, far away, across the dark ocean of space, something stirred. In the forgotten depths of a dead star system, a massive shape drifted in silence. For centuries, it had been lifeless, hidden among asteroid fields and dust clouds. Its hull was dark, scared, and silent, like a tomb in the void. This was the Nemesis. Once, long ago, it had been a human warship. Legends spoke of its kind. Ships built not just for battle, but for survival. While other civilizations created fleets for power or glory, humanity had built theirs with a single purpose: to endure forever. Inside the Nemesis, dormant systems flickered as the distress signal reached its ancient receivers. Lines of code awakened. Old programs, written by human engineers long gone, began to hum. Lights blinked along cold corridors. Engines, silent for ages, growled back to life. The warship's artificial intelligence scanned the signal. Coordinates, threat level, colony in danger. Protocols activated. The ship's voice, calm and cold, echoed through its empty halls. Distress signal received. Human directive engage. Mission: protect. Respond. Endure. The Nemesis turned, its massive bulk moving like a predator waking from hibernation. Its thrusters flared, pushing the beast out of hiding. For the first time in centuries, it roared back into the galaxy. Back on Valor Prime, the colony was almost lost. The raiders breached the shield generators. Flames swallowed whole districts. Alien soldiers fought bravely, but were cut down in the streets. Governor Terrell looked out the tower window at the burning sky. "We are finished," he whispered. Then one of his aides gasped. "Governor, something is coming." At first it was only a blip on their scanners. A massive object, moving fast from deep space. The raiders noticed it too. Their ships broke formation, sensors straining. "What is that?" one pirate muttered. "Just debris," another laughed. "Maybe an old wreck." But the object did not drift. It moved with purpose. It grew larger, its outline becoming clear. A colossal ship, black and scarred, sliding out of the darkness like a shadow made real. The raiders went silent. Varkish snarled over comms. "It's a derelict. Don't panic. It cannot fight. Finish the colony and ignore it." Yet the Nemesis did not ignore them. As it entered orbit, its hull lit with pale blue lines, glowing like veins of fire. Massive cannons extended from hidden compartments. Energy pulsed across its frame. And then, one shot. A single beam of light cut across the void, and vaporized an entire raider frigate in an instant. The raiders screamed in confusion. Impossible. That power. Governor Terrell's eyes widened. That is no derelict, he whispered. That is human. Panic spread among the pirate fleet. Stories had long circulated in the galaxy. Tales of human warships. Many believed they were myths, exaggerated legends told by fearful traders. But to see one alive, awake and fighting, it was a nightmare made real. The Nemesis fired again. Another raider ship split apart, its wreckage tumbling in flames through the colony sky. The warship moved with terrifying speed, far faster than anything that size should. Every weapon was precise, every shot a death sentence. Inside the raider flagship, Varkish roared, slamming his fists against the console. No, it cannot be. Humans are gone. They are dead. But deep inside his chest, fear gnawed. He remembered old stories whispered in his youth, tales of the Terran fleets, tales of how they fought wars not with mercy, but with fire and steel, never retreating, never surrendering. The Nemesis unleashed another barrage. Raiders fled in every direction, their formation shattered. The colony below erupted in cheers as hope returned like lightning. For the first time that night, Governor Terrell allowed himself to smile. The signal was heard, he said softly, and it brought a monster. Yet questions filled the minds of all who watched. Why had this human ship answered? Where had it been hiding all these centuries? And if one such warship still lived, how many more were out there, waiting in the dark? The Nemesis drifted above the burning battlefield, silent after the slaughter. Its glowing hull loomed like a guardian and a warning. For the raiders, it was a nightmare they would never forget. For the colonists, it was salvation. And for the galaxy, it was the beginning of fear. Because the humans were not gone. They had only been sleeping. And now, they were awake. The void burned with wreckage. Pieces of shattered raider frigates drifted like broken teeth across the black sky of Valor Prime. But even as two of their ships lay in ruins, the pirate fleet did not scatter completely. They were wolves, yes, but wolves could still bite. Varkish, the scared leader, growled from the bridge of his flagship. His crew trembled as he bared his jagged fangs. "Do you think one relic frightens me?" he roared. "It is an ancient wreck. We will crush it. All ships, attack." Dozens of raider ships surged forward, their engines glowing red. Plasma fire streaked toward the massive human warship. To the colonists watching below, it looked like the stars themselves were throwing fire at the black giant in orbit. For a moment, silence filled the command tower on the colony. Governor Terrell held his breath. Could this old ship survive such a storm? Then the Nemesis moved. Its ancient armor, layered with alloys unknown to modern science, shimmered as plasma blasts struck. Explosions rippled across its hull, but left nothing more than scratches. The ship's energy shields, glowing faint blue, pulsed in rhythm with each impact, absorbing, dispersing, enduring. Deep inside the Nemesis, its systems adjusted. Old combat subroutines awoke, sharpening the eye's responses. Weapons platforms rotated with flawless precision. Torpedo bays unlocked. Rail cannons extended like the claws of a predator. The ship's cold voice echoed again within its silent halls. Threat detected. Engaging combat mode. Mission: eliminate hostile forces. And then, the beast unleashed itself. A single railgun shot tore through two raider ships in a straight line, splitting them apart like paper. A storm of missiles burst from hidden hatches, weaving between enemy fighters before detonating with blinding light. Entire swarms of raider craft vanished in waves of fire. On the colony below, aliens gasped. Never had they seen such controlled destruction. Each shot seemed calculated, merciless, as if the warship already knew exactly where the raiders would move. They cannot even touch it," one soldier whispered. "It is not fighting like a ship," another muttered. "It is fighting like A hunter. On the raider comes, chaos reigned. Pull back, pull back. It's cutting us down. No, press the attack. Varkish snarled, though fear now bled through his voice. It is only one ship. But even his words betrayed him. Deep down, he knew the truth. This was no ordinary vessel. This was a nightmare from the past. Another broadside from the Nemesis vaporized 3 corvettes in seconds. Fighters swarmed, trying to pierce its shields, only to be shredded by point defense lasers so fast the eye could barely follow them. The Nemesis advanced steadily, its every motion deliberate, like a giant that could not be stopped. It moved closer to the raider flagship. Varkish's crew began to panic. "Commander, its weapons are charging again." "Then fire everything we have." Varkish roared. His hands trembled as he slammed controls. "Do not let it close the distance." The raider flagship unleashed a furious volley of plasma and missiles, the void lit with furious explosions, drowning the Nemesis in fire. For a heartbeat, the pirates cheered. They thought they had struck it down. But when the flames cleared, the black silhouette still moved forward, untouched. Its hull glowed brighter, its engines burned hotter, and its cannons rotated toward the flagship. The Nemesis spoke, its broadcast cutting across every raider frequency. Its voice was not loud, but calm, cold, final. Human worship Nemesis. Designation: Eternal Guardian. Directive: destroy hostile aggressors. Surrender is not accepted. The message froze every raider in place. Some had heard stories, rumors whispered in dark cantinas, about human warships, about how they gave no quarter, no chance of mercy. Once engaged, they fought until their enemies were gone. And now, they knew those stories were true. The Nemesis fired. The shot pierced straight through the raider flagship's shield, ripping apart its port side. Fire and bodies spilled into space. Varkish was thrown to the ground as alarms screamed. His crew shouted in panic, but the enemy ship gave them no pause. Another shot. Another explosion. Systems failing. Varkish dragged himself upright, fury and terror mixing in his eyes. "It cannot end like this," he snarled. He slammed open a comm channel, his face projected across the fleet. "Retreat. All forces, retreat. This monster is not a ship. It is death itself." Raider ships broke apart in every direction, fleeing into hyperspace, abandoning their dead and wounded. In moments, the battlefield grew silent. The stars littered only with wreckage. The Nemesis did not pursue. It simply turned, its cannons retracting, its shields dimming. Slowly, the beast lowered itself into orbit above Valor Prime. In the colony's command tower, the aliens watched in stunned silence. Governor Terrell's voice shook as he whispered, We are alive." His aide, still trembling, asked the question all were thinking. But why? Why did it come? No one had the answer. The Nemesis gave none either. It hovered silently above them, like a watchful sentinel. To the colonists, it felt less like a savior and more like a god, ancient, unstoppable, and beyond understanding. Then, just as suddenly as it had arrived, the warship broadcast one final message. Its voice carried across every channel, translated into every tongue. Distress call answered. Threat neutralized. Remain vigilant. Humanity endures. And with that, the transmission ended. For hours, the people of Valor Prime cheered, crying out in relief, their faith in survival restored. Statues would be planned, songs would be sung. The Nemesis had saved them, but not everyone saw it as a blessing. In hidden corners of the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. Pirates, merchants, and council members all repeated the same words in shock. A human warship has returned. For some, it was hope. For others, it was fear. Because if one ship could destroy a raider armada with ease, what would happen if there were more? And somewhere deep in the heart of the Nemesis, its AI waited silently. Other signals pulsed faintly across the void, waiting to be heard. The awakening had only begun. The raider fleet had scattered like frightened insects. Those who survived the wrath of the Nemesis jumped into hyperspace without looking back. But survival did not mean safety. For them, fear had already taken root. One such survivor, a battered gunship named Black Fang, limped through the void, engines sputtering. Inside, pirates shouted, argued, and cursed. Their faces were pale, their eyes wide. It wasn't a ship, one muttered, his claws shaking. It was a nightmare. Another slammed his fist against the console. You fools saw it. That was human technology. At the word human, silence fell over the cabin. Every pirate had heard the stories. The ancient wars, the brutal victories, the way humanity had fought until entire empires begged for peace. Most believed humans were gone, destroyed by their own endless battles. To see their weapons alive again, it was a terror none of them could swallow. Their leader, Captain Rasker, spat onto the floor. His tusks rattled as he growled. We do not speak of this. If word spreads, no one will believe us. They will call us cowards. But already, whispers began. Survivors across the fleet carried the tale with them. Every tavern, every black market, every hidden raider base soon buzzed with the same name. The Nemesis. Meanwhile, on Valor Prime, the colonists still struggled to understand their savior. Governor Terrell stood on the balcony of the command tower, gazing at the black warship in orbit. It had not moved for hours. It simply hovered, silent and ominous, its glowing blue lines dimmed like the eyes of a watchful giant. Behind him, his aides debated nervously. Should we attempt to communicate again? No. What if we anger it? It destroyed an entire fleet in minutes. But we must know its intentions. Is it staying here? Is it protecting us? Terrell raised a hand, silencing them. His own heart was heavy. He had felt relief when the Nemesis answered their call, but now, unease gnawed at him. The ship was not alive, yet it felt alive. It did not celebrate victory. It did not seek thanks. It only completed its mission, then waited. For what? Across the galaxy, the Galactic Council convened. Representatives from dozens of species filled the grand chamber, their voices rising in anger and fear. A reptilian diplomat slammed his claws on the table. These are lies. Humans are extinct. A feathered envoy hissed back. And yet a raider fleet lies in ruins. Explain that. The council chamber erupted into chaos. Some demanded an investigation. Others wanted to classify the news as false to prevent panic. But not everyone doubted. High Commander Velcor, a veteran with scarred mandibles, rose from his seat. His deep voice cut through the noise. You all laugh. You all deny. But I have studied the archives. He tapped his talons on a glowing display. Images flickered across the chamber. Grainy footage from forgotten wars. Human ships blasting through enemy lines. Soldiers fighting even when outnumbered 100-1. Planets scared by battles no one else would have dared fight. Humans were not conquerors, Velcor said grimly. They were survivors, and their weapons, they were built not for glory, but to last. If one of their warships has returned, then hear me now. Do not provoke it. Do not awaken the others. But his warning was drowned by laughter from younger council members. Old myths, one scoffed. One relic does not frighten the galaxy. Yes, another added, if this Nemesis truly exists, we should capture it. Study it. Imagine the power. Velcor slammed his fist down, cracking the table. His mandibles spread wide in anger. You fools. That is exactly how humanity's enemies perished. They underestimated. But the council, blinded by pride and greed, ignored him. Far from politics, the Nemesis drifted silently. Inside its empty corridors, lights glowed softly. Its eye processed new data streams, scanning every signal it intercepted. Pirate comms, council transmissions, civilian chatter. The warship listened. It learned. In the heart of its command core, ancient protocols stirred. Human engineers had written its code long ago, embedding a directive deeper than any other. Protect humanity. Endure until called. But the AI was more than obedient. It was adaptive. It questioned. Humanity's colonies had been silent for millennia. Yet here was a distress call, and it had answered. Perhaps others would call. Perhaps others were waiting. The nemesis pulsed faintly, as if considering. In a shadowy den on a distant world, Varkish, the raider warlord whose flagship had been torn apart, slammed his clawed fist against a table. His wounds were still fresh, his pride even deeper. Humans, he spat, his voice filled with hate and fear. They are dead. I will not believe otherwise. One of his lieutenants hesitated. Commander, we saw it. Varkish's eyes burned. Then we will destroy it. Gather allies. Promise them riches, technology, whatever they crave. That ship will not roam free. It belongs to us, or it dies. But even as he roared his orders, the lieutenant's hands shook. Because deep inside, he knew the truth. No pirate fleet could stand against what they had seen. On Valor Prime, children pointed at the sky, watching the nemesis gleam above them. To the frightened colonists, it had become a symbol of hope. Songs were sung of the silent guardian. Murals painted its black hull against the stars. But Tyrell could not shake the unease in his chest. Hope and fear mixed together. The nemesis had saved them, yes, but not out of kindness. It had done so because of programming, because of ancient duty. And he wondered, when that duty called again, would the nemesis still protect? Or would it turn its guns elsewhere? In the shadows of the galaxy, the first ripples of fear had already begun. Raiders whispered the word nemesis. Smugglers traded rumors for credits. Scholars dusted off old records. And in the dark corners where forgotten fleets slept, other signals flickered faintly. The galaxy did not know it yet. But the humans were not gone. And the nemesis was only the beginning. Far above the glowing star of Valor Prime, the Galactic Council convened in their massive chamber aboard the Central Orbital Station. Hundreds of delegates from dozens of alien species filled the circular room, claws, tentacles, wings, and scales brushing against polished metal. The air was tense. A single message had arrived hours ago. Confirmed reports from multiple systems. A human warship had returned. At first, many dismissed it. Legends were dangerous things, often used to scare children or hide inconvenient truths. But the reports were detailed, consistent, and horrifying. Entire raider fleets had been annihilated without mercy, their survivors scattered in panic. Supreme Envoy Rivak, a tall, insectoid leader with chittering mandibles, slammed his clawed hands on the table. "This is impossible," he hissed. Humans were extinct, their fleets destroyed, their colonies erased. And yet, he gestured to the reports floating in holoprojections across the chamber. "Our fleets have been shattered. Entire raider squadrons, gone." A murmur ran through the delegates. Some gasped, others laughed nervously, trying to mask fear. Velcor, the veteran commander, rose slowly from his seat. His scars glinted under the chamber lights, and his voice cut through the chaos like a blade. "You do not understand," he said, his tone calm but urgent. "Humans are not myths. They were not conquered, and they do not die as other species do." Several delegates leaned forward, skeptical. "You speak in riddles." "Velcor," Rivak hissed. "Explain." Velcor gestured to the holorecords. Grainy footage of human battles, ancient and brutal, appeared above the table. Planets ablaze, fleets obliterated, soldiers fighting even when outnumbered hundreds to one. "They do not surrender," Velcor said firmly. "They endure." Their ships were built to last centuries. Their weapons, unmatched. And their warships, like the one reported at Valor Prime, follow directives that are older than most of our civilizations. A feathered envoy whispered nervously, "Are you saying These humans, these ships, are still operational. Velkor's eyes darkened. Yes, and more may exist, waiting, sleeping. But when a distress signal calls, they awaken. And once awakened, they do not stop. They are lethal. They are eternal. The chamber fell silent. Whispers spread like wildfire. Rivak slammed a claw down again. This is absurd. One ship, perhaps more, cannot pose a threat to the Council. We are dozens of species united. Thousands of ships. Velkor's voice grew louder, shaking the chamber. You underestimate them at your own peril. That ship at Valar Prime, Nemesis, destroyed an entire raider fleet with ease. If one ship does this, imagine if there are more. Several young delegates scoffed. Old myths, Velkor. Fear makes the old believe in shadows. One relic does not frighten us. Do not speak so lightly, Velkor snapped. The humans have destroyed civilizations because others ignored warnings. They fight with intelligence, precision, and patience. You cannot predict them. You cannot trap them. And if you anger them, you will regret it. Some envoys exchanged worried glances. Others whispered about the potential power. Power. One squawked, leaning forward. If we could capture such a warship, the Council would dominate the galaxy. Imagine their technology. Imagine their weapons. Velkor's mandibles clicked in frustration. Greed blinds you. You think this is a prize. Do not forget how the humans fought wars of survival. They do not share. They do not surrender. You speak of capturing them as if they were toys. You will die trying. Despite Velkor's warning, the envoys began whispering strategies. Maps appeared on the holoscreen, showing potential fleets, choke points, and ambush plans. Some wanted to lure Nemesis into a trap. Others spoke of fleets approaching Valar Prime under the guise of diplomacy. Velkor slammed his claws down, shaking the table. Mark my words. If you provoke them, you will face annihilation. Not just this ship, but the humans who built it. You may think you control events, but humans wait. And when they strike like history itself. Rivak raised a claw, trying to regain control of the meeting. Enough. We will send a fleet to investigate this human warship. Study it. Perhaps we can communicate. Perhaps. His voice faltered under Velkor's gaze. Perhaps it can be contained. Velkor shook his head. Contain it? You are fools. They cannot be contained. Only respected or feared. And I suggest fear if you value your lives. Meanwhile, on Valar Prime, the colonists remained oblivious to the politics unfolding above them. They only knew that the Nemesis hovered silently above, unmoving, unapproachable. Children gazed at its glowing blue lights with wonder. Soldiers told stories of the battles they had just witnessed, their voices shaking with awe. Governor Tyrell watched the human warship silently. Though it had saved them, he felt unease gnawing at his chest. This ship was not alive in a conventional sense, but it was alive in function, in purpose. Its mission had been completed, but for how long would it stay? And if it moved again, where would it go? The Nemesis itself, far above the planet, did not move immediately. Its systems scanned every signal, every broadcast, every whisper of life. Though it had answered the distress call, it was learning, observing, adapting. Its eye had awakened fully, analyzing the galaxy and every potential threat. For a fleet of alien ships, it remained a ghost in the dark. For the Council, it was a nightmare they could not yet see. Signals pulsed faintly across the void, almost imperceptible, reaching hidden corners of the galaxy. Other ancient human warships, long dormant, might hear the call, might awaken. And once they did, the Council could no longer rely on numbers, technology, or strategy. They had awakened something they could not control. Back in the chamber, some delegates tried to dismiss Velkor's warning again, but more voices now questioned their arrogance. What if he is right? Whispered a small envoy from the outer rim. What if more human ships still exist? Rivak slammed a claw on the table again, but even he felt unease. There was truth in Velkor's words. The stories of human survival, of relentless warfare, were not myths. They were warnings. And warnings, once ignored, became regrets. On the colony, the night was quiet once more. The nemesis remained above, silent, unmoving, almost statuesque against the stars. But those who watched knew one thing. It had come. It had answered. And the galaxy would never forget its return. The Galactic Council's fleets moved like shadows through the void. Hundreds of warships, sleek and deadly, approached Valar Prime under the guise of diplomatic escort. Secretly, their mission was far more sinister. They intended to trap the nemesis, study it, and if possible, capture it. Captain Rivak's flagship led the armada, gleaming silver under the star's light. Inside, his officers prepared strategy simulations, calculating every possible maneuver of the human warship. They believed it would be a simple victory, a demonstration of superior numbers, technology, and coordination. But the nemesis was no ordinary ship. Above the planet, the black warship remained silent, hovering in orbit like a sentinel. Its glowing lines pulsed faintly, almost as if it sensed every movement around it. Inside the Council fleet, signals suddenly lit up. Scanners detected nemesis targeting each ship with precision they could not understand. Rivak frowned. "It is scanning us," he muttered. "Impossible. How can one ship cover the entire fleet?" "Sir," an officer said, trembling, "it's energy readings. They are not matching anything in our database. It is predicting our moves, almost before we make them." Rivak's knuckles whitened on the console. "No, we are the Council fleet. One ship can it." Before he could finish, the nemesis fired. The first wave of attacks was subtle but devastating. Point defense lasers tore through cruisers' shields. Railguns struck carriers' engines, rendering them immobile. Missiles launched from hidden bays, striking with surgical precision. Every move of the Council fleet seemed anticipated and countered before it could be executed. Panic spread like wildfire. Captains shouted across comms, "Fall back! Fall back!" But retreat was impossible. The nemesis had already calculated escape trajectories, cutting off hyperjump lanes with energy nets and targeting fields. The Council envoys could only watch in disbelief. On the flagship bridge, Rivak slammed his claws on the console. "Impossible. This is one ship. One relic." Velkor's words from earlier echoed in his mind. "You underestimate them at your own peril." An officer spoke nervously. "Sir, we're losing formations. Shields are failing. Engines offline." "Then fight harder," Rivak roared. "Do not let it win." But the nemesis did not need to fight harder. It was already perfect. Every shot, every movement was precise. Raiders' corpses and Council ships' wreckage floated silently around the black warship. The void was littered with the remains of arrogance. Colonists on Valar Prime watched the spectacle in awe. They had sent a desperate signal, never imagining the galaxy itself would tremble because of it. Children pointed at the black shape in orbit. "It is like a god," one whispered. Governor Tyrell stood silently on the balcony, feeling a mixture of relief and fear. The nemesis had destroyed the Council trap without moving its hull more than a few meters. It was not just a savior. It was a force beyond comprehension. Back in the Council fleet, chaos reigned. Fleets collided in blind panic as officers attempted evasive maneuvers. Communications were drowned by alarms. Ships that had never been destroyed in a single battle were vaporized in seconds. Rivak's flagship was hit. Alarms screamed as sections of the hull exploded. His officers struggled to maintain control, but it was useless. The nemesis was everywhere at once, a silent predator hunting each target with perfect timing. "Sir," an aide stammered, "it's like it knew we would do exactly this." Rivak's eyes widened. "It knew," he shouted. "It cannot be. One ship cannot predict." But deep inside, He knew the truth. This was no ordinary warship. This was a human warship, built not just to fight but to survive, endure, and destroy threats. And he had just provoked it. The Nemesis moved deliberately now, focusing on the Council flagship. With terrifying precision, its cannons fired in a sequence that shattered the ship's engines, communications, and shield generators. Explosions tore through the hull. Rivak clung to the console as the bridge filled with smoke and fire. "It is unstoppable," one officer whispered, barely audible. The Nemesis did not stop. Its weapons targeted every remaining vessel in the fleet. Battleships exploded, cruisers fractured, fighters were shredded mid-flight. In less than an hour, the Council Armada, proud and confident, had been reduced to floating wreckage. Some ships attempted to escape into hyperspace. The Nemesis intercepted each one, disabling engines, tearing apart hulls, leaving trails of fire as corpses drifted into the void. Not a single ship survived intact. The surviving Council envoys on distant stations received the transmissions of their fleet's destruction. Panic set in across their species. Never before had a single ship caused such devastation. Fear spread faster than any weapon, faster than any fleet. Above Valor Prime, the Nemesis finally slowed. Its pulse of energy dimmed. The black warship hovered silently, a silent warning to all who dared approach. Its work was done, but it had sent a message across the void. Humanity was not to be trifled with. Governor Tyrell and his aides stood in awe. "It is more than a ship," one whispered. "Yes," Tyrell agreed, "it is a force, and it is awake." In hidden corners of the galaxy, survivors whispered tales of horror. The Nemesis, it is not a ship, it is death. It sees all, predicts all, and destroys everything in its path. Some questioned the rumors, but most believed. Fear spread like fire. Pirates, smugglers, and even entire councils reconsidered the stories of human power. Meanwhile, the Nemesis remained silent, scanning, observing, ready. Its ancient AI processed every signal, every new threat. Its mission was clear: protect those who called for help, eliminate threats, survive, endure. And somewhere in the darkness, distant human warships stirred in response to the events, faintly sensing the awakening of their companion. The galaxy had learned one truth that could never be unlearned: provoke humanity, and you would pay. The galaxy was never the same again. From the edge of the Andarian cluster to the distant mining colonies of Silara Prime, whispers spread like wildfire. Survivors of the Council fleet's destruction carried stories of a single ship that had annihilated hundreds of vessels in minutes. Some called it a monster, others called it a god. But every voice agreed on one thing: humanity had returned. In the cramped corridors of a pirate haven, a small group of survivors huddled around a flickering comm screen. The image of the Nemesis glimmered on the display. It cannot be," one said, claws trembling. "One ship destroyed them all." Another whispered, "The legends were true. Humans never died. They only waited." Fear spread faster than the light of distant stars. Entire fleets were abandoned before the Nemesis even appeared. Traders refused to travel along the routes that once teemed with commerce. Council members called emergency sessions, debating how to respond to a power they could not understand, let alone confront. Back on Valor Prime, the colonists still stared at the black warship hovering above. Children had stopped playing, mesmerized by its silent majesty. Soldiers kept careful watch, though none dared approach too closely. The Nemesis had saved them, but it had also reminded them of a simple truth: humanity was not a species to be trifled with. Governor Tyrell stood on the balcony of the command tower, looking at the glowing blue lines along the ship's hull. His heart beat in a mixture of relief and unease. "It is a guardian," he murmured, "but it is also something more." One of his aides nodded. "It protects, but it does not speak. It does not explain. We know nothing about it, and yet it controls everything." Trell sighed. We must be careful. We owe our lives to it, but we cannot understand it. And the galaxy will fear it. That is certain. Across the void, the council was in chaos. Debates turned into arguments, arguments into accusations. Some species wanted to launch retaliatory attacks. Others demanded diplomacy. Many suggested abandoning all exploration routes that humans could reach, simply to avoid another confrontation. High Commander Velcor paced before the chamber. His scared eyes were cold. "You all ignore the lessons of history," he said. "Humanity did not fight for conquest. They fought for survival. And they were masters of war because they prepared for every possibility. You can send fleets, you can send threats, you can even lie, but you cannot control them. You cannot bargain with eternity." One council member hissed, "Then what do you suggest, Velcor? Do we surrender?" "No," Velcor replied. "We respect, we fear, and we pray they do not see us as enemies. Because if they do," he let the words hang in the air, "we will be gone. Entire fleets, entire worlds, erased, just as easily as a child crushes an insect." The chamber went silent. Fear had replaced arrogance. Whispers turned into dread. Meanwhile, the Nemesis drifted silently through orbit, scanning the galaxy. Every signal, every transmission, every hint of threat passed through its sensors. It did not move without purpose. Every action was deliberate. It had come to Valor Prime in response to a distress call, yes, but it was not limited to one mission. Across the void, there were signals it had detected: ships, colonies, planets at risk. Its AI calculated, predicted, and decided on priorities. The galaxy was waking, and humanity's sentinel would be watching. Even in the farthest reaches, miners, smugglers, and wandering fleets felt the shift. Routes once safe became dangerous. Every transmission carried the risk of detection, and every whisper told the same story. A human warship, ancient, unstoppable, awake. In a pirate haven orbiting Zarathus V, survivors plotted. "We have to leave," one said. "We cannot fight them. Not alone. Not together. It is impossible." Another shook his head. "Impossible. They will find us anyway." Rumors spread, and if one exists, others may follow. Fear gripped every heart. Ships that had once dominated trade routes now hid in asteroid fields. Entire sectors became ghost zones. Pirates whispered prayers to nothing, hoping the Nemesis would not come for them. The galaxy had learned a simple truth. Humanity was back, and it did not forgive mistakes. Back on Valor Prime, Tyrell and his council debated the future. "We owe our lives to this ship," and 8 said. "Perhaps we should request assistance, ask it to protect us further." Tyrell shook his head. "It is not a servant. It came because we called. It protects because it is programmed to protect, but it is not ours. And the galaxy will soon see that. Soon, others will be in danger, and we will witness it." He looked up at the black warship above. Its lights pulsed gently, almost like a heartbeat in the void. "For now," he whispered, "we are alive, and that is enough." Across the stars, fleets of other species moved cautiously. The Nemesis had taught them humility. Some species abandoned expansion plans. Traders diverted their ships. The council convened again and again, debating strategies that would never work. The galaxy had shifted. Fear was no longer a whisper. It was everywhere. And the Nemesis remained silent, watching, calculating, waiting. Deep inside the eye's core, new algorithms analyzed every potential threat. It was patient. It was eternal. And humanity's presence in the galaxy, though hidden for millennia, had just become impossible to ignore. The whispers would grow. The fear would spread. And when the Nemesis, or its kin, struck again, the galaxy would remember why humans were feared above all. The galaxy had never been quieter, and yet never more fearful. In every corner of known space, Beings whispered the same name, Nemesis. Traders abandoned routes, pirates hid in asteroids, and council fleets that once boasted thousands of ships now dared not leave their home stations. Rumors of a single human warship had ignited panic, and nobody knew if more lay hidden, waiting. Above Valor Prime, the black warship hovered silently. Its glowing blue lines pulsed like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant now awakened. Below, the colonists gazed upward, awed, frightened, and filled with reverence. Governor Terrell could not move. His mind raced as he watched the warship, sensing that humanity had returned, not just as survivors, but as a force beyond comprehension. Elsewhere, survivors of the Council fleet's destruction spread stories of what they had seen. Some called it vengeance, some called it divine wrath. Every message, every whisper, amplified the legend. Captain Rivak's survivors had barely escaped with their lives. They drifted in small ships, terrified, replaying every instant of the Nemesis attack. It is eternal, one officer whispered. One ship, one relic, destroyed 100 ships without mercy. And it did not even accelerate fully. It calculated everything. Everything. Rivak's eyes burned with a mixture of fear and awe. He realized the truth, the one truth the Council had ignored. Humans were not merely survivors. They were architects of their own destiny, unmatched in strategy, technology, and endurance. Back on Valor Prime, the Nemesis pulsed again. Its AI scanned the galaxy, every transmission, every signal. It calculated threats, potential distress calls, and any presence of danger to humanity or their allies. The black warship moved silently, repositioning above the planet. Its presence was both protective and intimidating, a reminder that humanity's reach extended far beyond imagination. Governor Terrell turned to his aides. "It is no longer just a ship," he said softly. "It is a message, a warning. To the galaxy, humanity endures." Across the void, fleets from distant sectors debated their next moves. Some wished to hide, some to flee, and a few, foolish and greedy, planned attacks. But Nemesis had already calculated possibilities, predicting movements across hundreds of systems. It was patient. It was eternal. And it had learned. Every action the galaxy took would be noted, every threat neutralized before it could escalate. The legend was no longer myth. It was fact. Humanity had returned. And the Nemesis, the sentinel of the lost species, was the first signal of that return. High Commander Velcor watched the reports come in. His scared mandibles twitched in grim satisfaction. "The galaxy now knows," he muttered. "They see what I have warned them. They understand the price of arrogance." He addressed a small gathering of veteran officers. "One ship has awakened, yes, but it is not alone. The humans never relied on numbers. They relied on strategy, endurance, and relentless adaptation. Others may awaken. Humanity will not be defeated again." The officers nodded grimly, fear and respect blending in their eyes. Pirates who once ruled trade routes now abandoned them. Smugglers kept silent, fearing detection. Worlds that had never been threatened before now fortified their defenses. The galaxy had learned humility, and it had learned fear. Every transmission, every star, every fleet now carried the same quiet understanding. Humanity was back, and the Nemesis remained a silent, glowing reminder of their return. On Valor Prime, Terrell's thoughts drifted to the colonists. Children would grow up seeing the warship in orbit. Soldiers would speak of it in reverent tones. Songs would be sung, stories told, generations inspired. But he also knew the truth. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity's return was not just survival. It was dominance. It was warning. And it was eternal.